Good morning, everyone. You are listening to Take with Luke Burrows. We've got a jam-packed episode today. It's just me on, so we're going to have a lot of fun. Just kidding. Nicholas Robinson and Patrick Tallon are sitting across from me as usual, and we're going to get started with probably anything anyone's talking about in not even just the NHL, in kind of probably Canada or sports world in general. Coach's Corner, Don Cherry was let go yesterday by Sportsnet. Pat, another thumbs up. He's so great with the...
That's awkward. We're listening to our own radio show
got
live.
a thumbs up and then he immediately gummed it. That's all right, Pat.
It happens.
So we've got... I mean, I know someone in this room has a bit to say about this, so I'm just going to go over the statement released from Sportsnet. Essentially, Don Cherry was... He was fired, but I've also heard step down. I mean, that kind of makes it sound like it was voluntary, but I think we all know it probably wasn't. Anyways, Sportsnet, essentially, he made divisive remarks that do not represent our values or what we stand for. Sorry, no, actually, side note, what I find interesting about the Sportsnet release, and I saw this on Twitter, this wasn't my own realization, but the first paragraph kind of says Don Cherry doesn't stand with our values, what we stand for, and then the second paragraph goes right into Don is synonymous with hockey and has played an integral role, ... I don't know, I just found that interesting that they kind of contradict themselves. But anyways, Don Cherry fired from Sportsnet after, I believe, almost 40 years. Yeah. And, I think everyone kind of has a, I don't want to say attachment, but of some level to Don and Ron and Coach's Corner.
I think there's definitely an attachment if you look for like the nostalgia purposes. Like you think of Hockey Night in Canada, you think of Ron and Don, you think of Coach's Corner, you think of all the stuff Don Cherry did for hockey communities. He loved the sport, he loved the players, stuff like that. But this is long overdue in my opinion. This is just, I guess, the breaking point, even though it shouldn't be, because Don Cherry's had a history of saying a lot of things like this. I did some research. I also wrote about this for Curtis Maloli's class, about all the stuff he said.
Great piece.
For example, thank you. When I think there were the two Russian skiers who tested positive for drug use, he said, quote, "I've been trying to tell you people for so long about the Russians, what kind of people they are, and you just love them, Canada, with your multiculturalism. They're quitters and evidently take a lot of drugs too." He's made numerous comments about women in the locker room. They shouldn't be there, is what he said. He's called enforcers who talked about concussions, pukes, turncoats, hypocrites. So he's made an abundance of comments that have just gone too far, and for far too long, Ron has sat there and just kind of taken it.
To an extent. Now, I know, sorry, I'll let you finish, but just to kind of interject, I know Ron apologized for last weekend's. I think he apologized Sunday. Right?
He did. So that was a good apology.
I thought that was a very good apology.
Because I feel like a lot of times you see people say, "I'm sorry if this hurt someone." He said, "I'm sorry for not stepping in. That was offensive. That was hurtful." I thought that was a good apology.
Yeah, I thought it was good that he didn't just say we're sorry for the comments. He literally apologized for himself not stepping in. But I will say, and I'm sure you guys have seen them too, there's a lot of videos, a lot of montages going around right now about just people have put together compilations of some of Don's worst moments for being Don. Yeah. And a lot of the times Ron does jump in and he does say something, but really, like, how much can you expect? Like, if he, obviously the right thing to do, I mean, I think for most people on Saturday night would have been to say, "Hey, Don, you're wrong. That's so against, a lot of values." But on live television, I mean, that would have caused a stir for Ron to do that. Obviously, I think we all agree is the right thing to do, but I don't know how much you can ask him to really jump in and talk over Ron. But sorry, Pat, finish.
I agree with that, because looking back, I watched some clips this morning, and Ron has, like, the one about where he...
Did you watch the women in the hockey? Like, he comes in and he says...
I watched the one, it's really old, I want to say from... I don't know when. Anyway, but he's like, women shouldn't be in the dressing room because there's so many men there. And he said, or no, there was a different one. Sorry. There was one where he said women aren't paying attention.
Yeah, and they get hit by a puck or whatever. And Ron's said, like, no, it can be both.
Yeah, he said, no, it's not just, okay. So I agree with that. I think part of the reason Ron didn't step in was because it was Remembrance Day, and the point that he was trying to make, or whatever he was trying to allude to, was about wearing a poppy. And I feel like Ron thought that if he went against what Don said, that it would look like he was going against the message of wearing a poppy.
the thing about what Don, I'm assuming, was trying to say is that's a valid opinion.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, you can have that opinion. No one's gonna that's fair, but it's the way he delivered it. Obviously,
Well,
I think the key
right,
piece
we're
yeah.
5 minutes and I haven't said anything on this yet.
Nick,
Yeah, go ahead.
Nick, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Nick is
I
also
am
here.
can confirm. I think you're sort of alluding to it, Luke. My main issue with it is like, I don't care that he said it. I care that he said it when he said it. This is, at the end of the day, Coach's Corner is a hockey segment on a hockey broadcast on a sports platform. I don't think anybody can get mad at him for voicing his opinions on Remembrance Day, on wearing poppies, on immigration. That's his opinion. I don't agree with it, but that's his opinion. He's entitled to that. Anybody who has that opinion, shares that opinion, is entitled to that. I just have an issue that he, and this is not the first time, has used his platform as a hockey broadcaster and person who is highly thought of in the hockey community to voice these opinions. Because, you know, if somebody else who had an opposite view that was like pro-immigration, pro-anything, and was using the platform the same way, I think we'd hear flack about it. But I feel like he's gotten away with it for so long just because he's Don Cherry. And I'm surprised Sportsnet fired him. I agree that this was a fireable offense for saying what he said. But again, it's not about what he said. It's about when he said it. And it's not right.
And if we want to look at the message itself too, sorry, Luke, real quick, the message itself, just the fact that it was you people.
Yeah,
I think it was the you people. Exactly, it was the targeting the immigrants, saying you love our honey and bread or whatever he said, and you and you won't wear a poppy. It's like, well, it's not just, it's anyone. Anyone should wear a poppy. But the thing is, like, part of like the freedom and stuff is the freedom to choose what to do. And if you don't want to wear one, you don't have to, and all that stuff, right? So I just thought, I don't know.
Correct. Yeah. And there's lots of people like voicing up on this saying, I'm sorry, Luke, I'm going to say one thing. There's lots of people like voicing up on this that, you know, usually don't converse about hockey much. And I think that's part of the problem. Like, I'd say it's sort of like the loud crowd that are like, don't watch hockey consistently, but they know who Don Cherry is, like the older crowd that are getting really more upset about this and what's happened in the whole fallout of this whole thing. But at the end of the day, you know, people will argue, oh, well, you're getting in on his freedom of speech to say what he wants. But at the end of the day, he's free to say what he wants. But in this day and age, in 2019, I think it's okay to know that you can't say certain things without repercussions. I think that's the important message here.
Go ahead, Luke.
Well,
go ahead.
It's interesting about what's interesting about Coach's Corner is that Sportsnet has to, like, Sportsnet CBC has to make a decision on what Coach's Corner is, because Saturday night obviously is the night that most casual fans are going to be tuning in for, because that's what you do on Canada on Saturdays. You just watch hockey. You might not watch hockey any other day of the week, but that's what you do on Saturdays. People have been doing it for decades, and you have to make a decision on, well, is Coach's Corner actually a hockey discussion show, or is it more of a Don Cherry platform? And I think Sportsnet made the decision that it's not a Don Cherry platform, and I think a lot of people were surprised that Sportsnet actually fired them. But I think I think we all agree it's a perfectly valid reason to fire him. They said Don's statements don't follow our values, and Sportsnet made the decision to, express their values, which personally I agree with in this case.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point. Two things, then we can quickly move on to something else. I think what Nick said about the freedom of speech, I think people conflate freedom of speech with like freedom without any consequences from what you say.
Correct.
Which is exactly what happened in the Cherry case. Yeah, you can say that, but that doesn't mean that something will happen.
Yeah.
As for what Don Cherry is, what Hockey Night in Canada is, what it's going to be on Saturday night, from what I understand earlier on when the Rogers broadcast rights merged with Sportsnet and all that stuff, that they were trying to fizzle out Don Cherry and they weren't going to give him as much airtime. But I think this gives them more of a reason to move on from him.
I wish, like, Don had so much potential, and he could have retired in such a, like,
good way,
celebratory way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's been saying things like this for a while, and there would have been some, he would have left some sour taste in people's mouths, but he could have left, and it would have been
Yep.
so much
My
happier.
last thought on it, I think the important thing now is how Sportsnet is going to go forward.
Yes.
In my opinion, I would remove Ron McLean from the position. I would just, not because Ron McLean deserves to be punished for all this. Again, he was at fault for this. Like, this is partially on him as well, although his apology was good. But I think that it's important now that Sportsnet move forward, you know, sort of disassociate themselves from Coach's Corner and really show that they're heading in a new direction.
Yep.
This is a good opportunity for them to, you know, a lot of people saying, you know, maybe have like a woman's insight or a person of color in that position. A lot of people obviously turning to, perhaps they've been gearing up Brian Burke for this position for a while. My tandem, if they want that sort of old time controversial stuff, okay, you put Brian Burke in there, but I think this is a good opportunity to put, you know, David Amber, who's like a good host, well-spoken, or somebody like Tessa Bonhomme, Tara Sloan there right next to them. I think that would be a good thing. And then you can allow Ron McLean to continue with the hometown hockey because he's done a good job of that over the years.
Yep.
But my personal tandem going forward would either be David Amber and Brian Burke or Tara Sloan, Brian Burke. I think that would be
Yeah,
an
and
acceptable
I think
thing.
Sportsnet knows who Don Cherry appealed to, so I have a feeling they're going to put someone in
Yeah.
like Burke.
Yeah,
but-
I'm not saying I'd want Brian Burke in there just because
Yeah.
like I want and I agree with Brian Burke, but I think just logically, I think that's sort of the direction that they're going to head in. I think this is a good opportunity for Sportsnet though to really change hockey broadcasting going forward. So
I'm just going to check the schedule for Saturday night. I mean,
it's
obviously-
going to be interesting to
It
see
will
what
be
they do this
interesting,
Saturday.
yeah.
It's going to be really interesting.
And also, like, one more thing. Aside from his comments, he's also never really had like a coherent. He's never really. He's kind of like
coherent thought.
Well, in a way, if you like, no one's looking to him for analysis or
No, but that's
or
the thing.
anything.
That's where Sportsnet has to decide
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
the purpose of Don Cherry.
And that's why, like what Nick said, like what he alluded to is have someone with analysis, have someone who's smart, not someone who's going to yell. Yeah. Anyway.
Leafs at Penguins, 7 p.m. Hockey Night in Canada. Avalanche at Canucks, 10 p.m.
Senators, Sabres.
Hockey Night in Canada.
Senators, Sabres,
Devils.
Senators, Sabres is coming to you off Sportsnet 1.
Habs Devils. Or am I
City TV.
Okay, so
Nice.
they're all going to be on the like you have all these Canadian teams on the hockey broadcast, so you're going to have
Yeah.
all sorts of
Oh,
markets watching. So this is important. This is an important step forward for Sportsnet. But
Okay.
I wonder if they'll make an announcement or they'll just kind of...
no,
I don't
I
do it.
doubt
I
they
doubt they
make the
will.
big change for this weekend. I doubt they rush into it. I think this next couple weeks
They've
they're probably
gotta do
just
it
going to do
quick,
something
though. They
normal.
can't-
Yeah,
I think
we're going to
they
see
can't
something
waste time.
normal with like the panel there. But I think within a couple of weeks, within this next month or so, we will have a new full-time program. And
Yeah,
that, you know,
a month at
intermission.
the most, I think.
All right, probably next topic. We spent a good amount of time with this. That was a great
Yeah.
conversation, though. Really
Yeah.
glad we had that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so let's move on to... you guys, do you want to... I know Nick might need a second here, but actually last week we had prepped a rule for
I've
the
got it.
NHL. Nick, okay, perfect.
I have mine too.
A rule change, addition, subtraction in the NHL that I don't want to say you'd like to see, but just something maybe you'd like to discuss.
I
So,
don't have an addition or a subtraction. Actually, yeah, maybe, yeah, okay. I only have
what
one.
do you have?
Oh, it was just
Okay.
one rule change. Not
Right. Yeah,
an
okay,
addition.
go ahead, Pat.
So mine would be to have a time limit for offside challenges and goalie interference challenges. I think it would help
What do you mean?
establish like how long they have to review it. So a lot of times you would see a goal that was offside. They would review. I think if it takes more than a minute or 2 minutes and it's inconclusive, then you go with the initial call. But sometimes you see when you can't really tell, they review it for 5 minutes, then they switch it back. I feel like if it's taking
Okay,
that
two
long,
things.
I would stick with
two
it.
things that I have to say about
And
that.
also momentum. It takes the momentum out of the game.
Okay, I agree with that. I don't think anyone likes pausing for 5 minutes, but two things. That's pretty subjective and like discretionary to the refs or to the what do you call it in Toronto? But
Yep,
I like that.
control room or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. That like that's not very black and white, right? Like that's gonna get pretty. That's gonna be different every night. And another thing, if they have to review a goal for more than however much time you're saying, if they have to review a goal for more than 1 minute, 2 minutes, don't you think that maybe there's good reason for that? Like I know what you're saying that, well, if they still haven't figured it out after 2 minutes, then just go with the call on the ice. But they're obviously looking at something for over 2 minutes, so I think maybe there's good reason for that. I don't really have a solution myself, but I don't.
Well, something along those lines. I don't know. I haven't it's not set in stone. Obviously, I think it would
Obviously.
be. Well, no, but sometimes it just an extensive look at a goal. I think of for example, PK Subban's offside goal of game 1 against Pittsburgh. I can pull it up maybe, but that was really controversial because that was on the blue line. Did he have possession? It took 10 minutes for them to figure it out. I think if it takes that long, plus if it's an inch or if a centimeter or whatever, that's not really going to dictate whether or not the goal went in or not, I think.
I get the premise of what you're arguing. The only problem I would have with it, this is an extreme example, but you have to consider it when you're making rule changes like this. Stanley Cup final, game 5, somebody's on elimination and there's a go-ahead goal in the third period. It's say there was a goal, there was an offside play potentially, and this can be a big game-changing moment in the series or whatever. And the review's gone over 5 minutes. Okay, that's it. It's gone over the time limit. We keep playing, no goal. But then you go back and look at it, and it was a goal.
Point. Yeah.
And then you're gonna have an uproar of fans after the game.
Yeah.
It was a goal that.
And all the reasoning would be from the refs. The refs are essentially saying, we don't know. We're just going to go with what we said. Let's keep playing.
Sorry, it took us too long. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I get the premise of what you're saying. I'd be more interested in a time limit on how long the team has to challenge it. Sometimes it takes them 30, 40 seconds after the goal.
That's fair.
I would say you have 10, 15 seconds.
Sure.
Immediately, you have to challenge it because you have to see it from the bench.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I would be better off with that if we want a time limit.
That'd be interesting because then I feel like teams would kind of devote someone to keeping an eye on that kind of stuff if it's up to them.
Well, they do already. They have the video coaches
but I mean,
in the back,
if you have to see it from the bench.
You have to see it from the bench, right?
Cool.
I'd be better off with something like that. I think that's a bit more productive.
What
do you got?
Okay, I'll go. So this one, you guys might be familiar with it, but I think I agree with it, unless you guys kind of flame me here. But I would be interested in not allowing shorthanded teams to ice the puck.
I get it. I'm just, the stoppages would be a bit much, right? I think that increases the amount.
But I don't think the team would want to ice the puck if...
Correct, but I think there's more potential for stoppages at that point. Yeah, that's the only concern I'd have with that.
I feel
that would drag it out a lot more.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, initial reaction.
But a shorthanded team, you're not gonna ice it the same amount. There's gonna be a whole different style.
If anything, wouldn't you ice it more?
No, what? Well, I just think if you get a penalty, if you get penalized for something, you shouldn't get a little rule break, being allowed to ice the puck. I think you should have to break out with 4 players. That's the disadvantage.
But the rule break is not having a player. That's why you can.
No, but you broke a rule. You play a man down for 2 minutes. I don't understand why you get a break on the disadvantage being able to ice the puck.
I get it. Yeah, I get the premise of the rule. I wouldn't be mad at that one. The 1 power play rule, I'd be more interested in making. This isn't mine that I prepared, but if we want, is the goal of what you're saying to increase the amount of power play goals?
No, I just...
Or zone exits and skate it out so there's more
Well, I mean, I think that would be the biggest adaptation is the penalty kills would look totally different. But no, I just think, like I said, if you break a rule and your disadvantage is to be down a man for 2 minutes, I don't think you should get a break in that disadvantage, that break being able to ice the puck.
Okay, fair enough.
That
makes sense.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's right.
I can see that one. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Mine that I prepped is, well, I have 2. They're sort of both weird ones. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts. This one's the layup. Is that it's not really a necessary rule and change, but obviously the layup is make 3-on-3 overtime 10 minutes. That's a layup.
Yeah.
I don't know how NHL decision makers sit down every year and somebody decides that they don't want to do 5 more minutes of this stuff.
3-on-3 for 10 minutes and then tie it.
Okay. This is the other wild one. It's another overtime one. Every penalty in overtime is a penalty shot.
Ooh, I like that.
That is inspired by
I like
threes.
that a lot.
That is mine.
I play a lot of threes, so
So do I.
Yeah.
We play a lot of
won.
NHL on the show.
I was 0.5 seconds away from winning. Okay. And then Nigel scored a -3. Anyways.
Was it a cross crease?
No, he just put it in the net.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
and also
do you like
to
that?
go back to your point of the 10 minutes. I remember the first, like, I don't know, the first 20 games when 3-on-3 was first introduced, 80% of them were won right away within like the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after that, teams adapted.
Yeah.
Teams would sort of play defensively, and then a good chunk of them have been going through shootout now.
good
But I like that. I like that
3-on-3
idea.
still does the job. Like there are less shootouts than there used to be, but I think if we extend this thing to 10 minutes or just go until somebody scores,
Yeah.
eliminate the shootout.
I don't think you can go until just logistics.
Who said that? Who said that? Tortorella? Was he the one who said it last
What?
year? Go till someone scores? Some coach said that anyway.
I just don't think you can. Like literally, for an example, I don't think the arena can just keep going unless it's like playoff games are different. But anyways,
Well, I don't think it would take that long.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
but
I
the
think
thing
teams
is,
would be
but
more
the thing
so
is,
many
it,
odd man
it
rushes. It's
could
just like,
though. They can't. That's a risk that I
fair.
don't think they can.
Well, I mean, the MLB does it every game.
yeah, but
You run the risk in the MLB.
I think
But
it would. I think it would. End
I think
things quicker.
turnover to other events in the MLB
Because
is
I also think
far
teams
less.
play a lot more defensively, knowing that they could go to a shootout and still get an extra point.
I
And,
like that rule. I think the refs
Yeah, no, I'll finish
the
it
refs
later.
are gonna have to be good, like that, because that's a huge call you're making.
Yeah.
If they mess that up, I think that's far more effective than even a penalty in overtime.
But you guys like that one? I did good.
You did.
I like it. I like the shootout one. I like
I
going.
like the idea. Yeah.
Okay, good stuff.
Cool.
That was fun.
right on.
Quickly, again, last week I asked you guys to. No, I don't. Maybe your answers have changed. Maybe you didn't even have an answer last week. But who would you give the Jennings? So I shouldn't say that. Who would you give? What team would you say has the best goalie tandem right now?
New York Islanders. Grice and Varlamov. They have been very good. They've essentially split the starts, and New York's been on a tear. I don't know if they've snapped their win streak yet. I haven't been paying attention. They have.
Who did it? Pittsburgh,
They
was
lost
it?
in overtime to Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
but
Ooh.
they have points in like every game since like the first couple.
Yeah, Grice has a 940 save percentage. Varlamov, 924. So they've been pretty solid. They've split the starts. A lot of that, I think, the Islanders' even strength play has been pretty solid. But yeah, that's been pretty. I was gonna say Rask Halak, but they've sort of slipped, and that's also just a bit of a generic pick. So I'll go with Grice and Varlamov.
You want me to go, or
Nick.
do you want to go?
Nick.
Okay. I like the premise of Chicago doing Crawford and Leonard for a different reason, not because they're both like super amazing. Obviously, Leonard's done really well and continued building off last season. I get the premise of what Bowman did there, and I really like it. But I think, there's a couple layups around the league that are pretty good. Like you said, the Islanders have been good with Grice and Varlamov, but I do like Chicago's. Winnipeg's was really good last year, but to me, I'd probably say still the best is Rene and Saros in Nashville is good.
Yeah, Nashville's just a.
You've got the good experienced starter in Rene who hasn't slowed down at all, and you've got the guy waiting in the wings in Saros locked up to.
What's
a good
Rene's contract? Anyone know?
They just extended him last year, so I think he's got this year and next year left at like
That's
$5
like-
million or
that's
something
good,
like that.
yeah.
And Saros is like signed too. So
Pat, did you have something to say?
No.
my other best one in the
Just
league,
Raising your hand.
the obvious layup of Martin Jones and Aaron Dell in San Jose, both posting sub 900 save percentages over like the past 3 seasons. Big shout out to that.
I do actually. My follow up, because I didn't know we were doing that. I had Luke. You will like this. Demko and Markstrom.
They've been the best this year.
They've been Demko has a 933 save percentage. Vancouver's playing well this year. The two of them have been solid.
Not so
that
much
would be
anymore,
my-
but yeah,
yeah. Well,
can't win them all.
yep.
Yeah, I did. I thought about Demko Markstrom, but I figured you guys might yell at me or something. This one maybe isn't as. No, that's actually pretty impressive. I think I had Smith Koskinen. Edmonton's kind of dropped off.
That one's really short term though. I'm not sure how
Well,
much more effective that
I
thing's
mean-
going to be as we go on.
I think all of these. I would say Markstrom, Demko is short term too.
I think probably the best one. Like I can't believe I forgot it is the Halak and Rask.
I think.
Yeah.
did you mention that?
Yeah, I mentioned that, but
Oh,
just like
okay, sorry.
that's kind of like the obvious pick. But they've also Boston's kind of struggled in the past few games, so I feel like it's good that we picked something else.
They were very good last year though,
Yeah.
and like that's a reliable tandem as you
It
go
is.
down the
Very
stretch.
reliable,
So
yeah.
if we're talking about reliability long term, but like full seasons, like
Yeah.
that's probably the best one. But if we're talking real short term, I mean,
Yeah.
we all sort of said the real short-term ones right now.
I don't know. I think Anderson and
Hutchinson.
well, not Hutchinson anymore. Kakasuo.
Kaskisuo.
Kaskisuo. Yeah, that guy.
Kaskisuo.
That's a pretty good goalie tandem. I can't wait for the first back-to-back there. That'll be fun to watch.
That's going to be real interesting, that one.
Man, to be a Leafs fan right now. Anyways.
Yeah.
Moving on. So last week, now I know I'm not sure. I mean, we can go over this briefly. We went over it last week. The ESPN player poll. I think we want to spend not a super long time on this, but I'm just going to bring it up here. This is a bit. I know I prefer the Athletics. I think that they do it better. But just briefly, I'll go over all of these. If you guys have any thoughts, let me know. Because I think last week we just had the worst road. Yeah, because TSN posted it right before the show. But the first question was, which team has the worst visiting locker room? From highest to lowest, Washington 42, Boston 34, Carolina 18, New York 4, Florida 2. This one we can't really say too much about because we have no idea what makes a good locker room. So, I mean, the Mattamy has some pretty nice spaces. But which team has the best visit? This one kind of makes sense. Which team has the best visiting locker room? Edmonton 40, Vegas 28, Detroit 20.
all the new buildings.
All new, yeah.
Minnesota has 12%. Not sure what's going on
XL
there.
Injury
but
Center is a nice building, so that makes a lot of sense.
This one's kind of cool. Would you play for Seattle in year one? 60% said yes.
Really?
I think Vegas changed a lot of people's minds.
That's one of the first quotes here. The success of Vegas has definitely opened guys' minds up to a little more. So yeah, that makes sense. And I wouldn't say, like, obviously the city of Seattle isn't a huge draw compared to others, but it's definitely not like a Carolina or Winnipeg.
Good city to live in. It's a nice big city.
Yeah, it rains a lot though.
It sure does.
Big weather report guy.
I'm gonna skip that one. So the NHL doesn't punish for recreational
Wait,
drugs.
what was the one you skipped? I want to
It
know.
was okay. Sorry, it was.
I'm just curious.
Would you feel comfortable appearing in a national?
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
The NHL doesn't punish for recreational drugs. Is that good or bad? 24% said good. 14% said bad. 62% said indifferent. I think that 62% of indifference.
People who don't want to answer.
Yeah, and I have a feeling most of that. That's an assumption, but I think a lot of them would say good. That's
Sorry,
just me.
Was it
24% said it's good they don't punish, 14% bad, 62% indifferent.
So what I'm hearing is that, like, confirmed 24% of players do recreational drugs.
At least.
That's my main take out of
Yeah,
that one.
that's, I think, how many?
I mean, that's
50 players were.
That's like the least surprising thing I've ever heard. Like, if you were to come
Yeah.
to me and say hockey players do recreational drugs, like, that's the least surprising thing I've ever heard.
So here's
We're from the GTA, and I think a lot of people just like casually do it.
Here's a follow-up. Given the league's approach to recreational drug use, does the NHL have a cocaine problem? 10% said yes, 58% said no, 32% said I don't know. And the quotes here, people seem pretty taken aback. Like, one quote, has anyone said yes to this question? I really don't think there is one, so I'd be shocked if someone said yes. I've never seen it. I don't know if it's just my team, but I've never seen it.
Now, how many of the no's were like, what percentage of the no's were no, there is no cocaine problem? Or how much was no, we don't have a problem?
So at that percentage, 5 people said yes, the NHL has a cocaine problem. I would be very interested to see which teams. I don't need to know who, but I'd like to know which teams those yeses are coming from.
Okay.
If they're all one or not. But
I'm trying to think, like, Washington Capitals,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yep.
Vegas.
Kuznetsov.
We talked about which road city do you dread the most. Winnipeg came in at top. There's a question about Gritty, which we don't need to talk about. Do you have a burner Twitter account? 32% said yes. 68% said no. But I should say some of the quotes here, I think, and it makes sense. I think a lot of them are just Twitter accounts made so they can just actually have a Twitter account. I don't think anyone's pulling a...
Again, like, very unsurprising
Yeah.
thing. Like, I'm sure...
I would have even
so
thought
many of them
more.
do.
But I bet a lot of the players thought the phrasing burner Twitter account means, like, you're on Twitter like pumping yourself up or something.
Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
just,
I'd also be curious to see like what coaches and GMs have burner accounts.
Pierre
if
Dorian
any.
confirmed he does have a Twitter account. Like he doesn't have like an actual like Pierre Dorian official Twitter account, but he did say to the media like he has a Twitter account, and he joked with a bunch of media. He's like, I know what all you guys are saying about me out there. I see all your tweets.
Probably so insecure about it too. He's
Oh,
like, actually worked up about it.
definitely. Oh, definitely. he's probably sitting there all the time like, what do you mean these guys don't like all the local players? Are you kidding me?
I mean, I know Dubas has his public, and like he's one of the. I think he's the only GM I know of that has like a public Twitter that he uses.
yeah.
That's
It
but
shows he's young and hip. He's really cool.
yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool
awesome.
guy.
He's a young hip guy.
He's great. We
He's-
love him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
The two quotes that from people that said, oh no, sorry, three. One doesn't really matter, but three quotes from people that said they do. One said, I have one, but just use it to keep up on sports and news and follow the media guys in our market, see what they're saying about me. So that's kind of cool because he admits he sort of follows what what people are trashing him for. Another one, I have one that I've never tweeted from. I'm a ... What do you call it? Oh yeah, an egg. So that's
What?
cool. Like when you
Oh,
make
like
a new
the
tweet.
okay.
Yeah,
starter account picture.
And then this one, I feel
Patrick,
like
pull up the egg.
this is what most
Yeah.
people have an account for. I guess you could call it a burner Twitter account, but I'm not using it like Kevin Durant or anything like that. I don't have any followers. I don't know if I follow more than 20 people. I usually just search things. I really use it to follow golf. That's how I get the results of golf tournaments. So I think most players could fit into that.
Yeah, Twitter egg. It's
I mean-
live. Luke, you can't see right now, but we got the
can't.
Twitter egg live.
That's great. I will make. I guess we don't have a Twitter account, but anyways.
Anyway, going back.
That was that. I think obviously hockey players are pretty boring, so they're not doing anything exciting on social media.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, hockey,
that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
Hockey
Yeah.
players are boring, so
Yeah.
why would they do anything exciting on the social media? That's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Okay, so do we each have a star?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Pat, kick us off.
Austin Matthews
Okay.
of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's who he plays for.
Oh, them. Right. Yeah, I forgot about
He has 9 points in his last 5 games. He had 4 assists against Chicago. He is good at the sport. I like watching him play. Pains me to say it, but he's really fun to watch. He's been playing very well. I don't have much else to say. He's just
He's
good hockey player.
And he is.
He's done well.
Nick.
Okay, this is like not just because he's a Senator. Jean-Gabriel Pageau has got 5 goals in his last 5 games. That trade value
Really?
just keeps going. Yeah.
Didn't I say last week that the Sens should keep Peugeot?
Yeah.
I think I did.
I
think I was the only one.
Yeah, my
But anyway.
rationale is still they should trade him. His trade value just keeps going up with this performance, but again, that's not what we're talking about. He's been excellent this week. He's shooting very high percentage-wise, but he's playing very good hockey right now, very responsible in his own end, and so far this is a career start to his year. 5 goals in 5 games obviously is eye-grabbing to anybody. Anybody would like a goal per game in over a week, so yeah. Jean-Gabriel Pageau, good for him. Nice guy.
Speaking of goal per game, my player has 3 goals in the last 3 games on top of 3 assists, 6 points in the last 3 games. I have Cale Maker of the Colorado Avalanche. I think Makar, what's interesting about him especially is that he's filling a pretty big hole. I mean, like position-wise, there's yeah, maybe actually a bit, but with the injuries in Colorado, which I'm experiencing firsthand based on fantasy, but I think his performance is, I mean, Colorado's nothing major right now, but his performance is really kind of impressive seeing, a young player like that.
He's doing a great
doing
job
what he's
filling
doing.
in the hole of this guy who I'm not sure if you guys know, but he's a Toronto Maple Leaf, Tyson Barrie.
Toronto Maple. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, because they traded Kadri for him, so now they have no grit whatsoever.
As McCarr jumps in, moves it and shoots. Cale McCarr!
Nice.
They're pronouncing it wrong.
Gord Miller on the call. Gotta love it. Love Gord Miller.
Thought we'd throw in some audio for once.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah.
We don't really ever do that.
We don't.
That is, I seriously think that's the first time on the show we've had like an audio bit in the middle of it.
More of that. I like that.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh,
We could just stream a game. Just a period of a game.
Yeah, let's not get
Take
too
to
silly.
take after hours. We'll book this studio and we will sit here and we will like react to a game. That would actually be good. Let's get the KMN show as well. Let's do like a set Leafs Habs game or a Leafs Sens, Leafs Canucks, whatever. And we'll all sit here. We'll have the control mics going and we'll all react to a game.
It's gonna be like all our mic levels are gonna have to be so low. There's gonna be so
my
much
God.
screaming.
Yeah, that would be like a rated R episode. There'd be a lot of
Yep.
a lot of swears being thrown around.
Yes.
Okay, so I asked you guys to. I mean, we can go through this kind of one by one as we do it, but each Canadian team's biggest disappointment and biggest good surprise. So we'll start with ours, and we'll just go off based on how much time we have. Montreal Canadiens. Do you want to head over there?
Biggest surprise? Sorry, I thought you meant like just any Canadian team's biggest surprise.
Oh, okay, sure.
So that's what I prepped for because that's
All
what
right,
you said.
we'll do that.
The way you said. So
Yeah.
for the Canadian teams of all them, their biggest surprise, I
Yeah.
have James Neal because he has 15 points. In 19 games, he's just 2 goals away from getting his total from last year, which I think, and he's been very good. For disappointing, I put Blake Wheeler. Blake
that's a good
Wheeler's
one.
on pace for 45 points. He only has 5 goals this season. Last year and the year before, he had 91 points in a row, and then he had 74 before that. I know he's getting old. I know he's 33, but I didn't expect an offensive decline that quick from him. So
Sorry, how old is he?
33, I believe. Yeah.
Nah,
33.
that'll be okay.
Anyway, so yeah.
What's funny about that is because I would say my biggest disappointment. Now, this isn't the biggest disappointment out of all Canadian teams, but in the context, I think Lucic is a pretty big disappointment, and sort of everything going on there with how that kind of all happened because obviously
people
that
knew that
trade
he
was
was-
terrible. And I just think it's funny. I'm not a big Lucic fan. I don't know why anyone would be, but I'd be pretty disappointed if that's who I had while you're watching Neil over there.
Yeah, well, I feel like people.
putting up.
Yeah, but if we want to go back to Montreal now that I've had time to think about
Let's
it.
talk about Montreal.
Wait, Luke, how did you prepare for this? Did you do like a surprise and a disappointment for every team?
I kind of had
that's
a
what I
rough
did.
idea. Oh,
That's what I did.
Every team?
we don't
for
have to do every
Ca-
team.
No, every
For
Canadian team.
our.
Every Canadian team, I
Yeah.
did a surprise and a disappointment.
So we can kind of go rapid
Okay.
fire.
Yeah,
I
do you want me to like
didn't- yeah.
read some of these off and you guys like react?
Yeah, because you made it seem like we all pick a Canadian.
Well, Nick understood.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you want me to read some?
let's
some
go.
of what I put off? You
We
guys can like
start in
react.
Montreal.
Okay, Montreal. I put the biggest surprise is John Drouin's bounce back play.
Yep. Yep.
John Druin.
Very welcome surprise too. The Habs needed that. And disappointment, I put lack of. Please don't yell at me. I put the lack of development from Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, I would.
I
agree.
think in terms
Yeah.
of last year, there was like a big glimmer of hope there, but I think so far this year, it's been a bit of a sophomore slump, bit of a step back.
What? No, this is an honest question. What were Canadians fans expecting?
I can't speak for Canadians fans. I think.
What were you expecting?
I expected him to have him play in Finland for a year and actually develop.
Really? Like this year?
Last year, I thought. They
Oh,
should've
no,
done.
but I mean coming out of
this year?
last year.
This year, I don't know. I think his play could be a lot better. I also think he should be playing in a more increased role, a more offensive role. He's just getting power play time. He's playing with Paul Byron, who's like an offensive black hole at this point.
Really, he's usually pretty good.
Yeah, but ever since he got knocked out, I don't remember who it was, if it was Uyghur or Ekblad. Anyway, he hasn't been the same. So yeah, I think, but that's just Montreal. That's my biggest issue with Montreal is the way they develop. They either bury them in the minors for so long or they rush them, and Kotkaniemi is being rushed. I think Suzuki's being rushed. I think Paling's being rushed. I think last year in Finland for Kotkaniemi would have done him some good, and then make the team this year. So yeah, I would actually agree with that. I was going to say him, but he's injured. So
Would it hurt him, in your opinion, to send him down to Laval right now?
No. Victor Mete had a conditioning stint last year, and everyone was upset because he'd been in the NHL for 2 years at that point. And he came back. He looked a lot better. I think
Sven Berchi, anyone?
Joel Bouchard, they finally have a good development program down there. So I think it would be good. It's just unfortunate because they can't seem to figure out how to work with their young players.
Yeah.
Again, same thing with, we don't want to spend too much time talking about Montreal, but same thing with Nick Suzuki. Yeah, he might be good enough to make the team, but I do think a year with him and Paling and Laval just to tear it up, move in next year. There's no rush to have them on the team right now.
Quickly for me, I think you want to see him be dominant somewhere. And I think if Laval's the place he can do it, I think they got to at least let him do it, because I think it's way too early to compare him to this, but I remember just like the only relatable one I had when Ottawa had Curtis Lazar.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
No.
I thought you were going to say David Legwand.
He played in the NHL for a couple years, and they sent him down to Belleville for a conditioning stint at one point in his third year, and it was very telling when he wasn't able to dominate down there that the writing was sort of on the wall, and then you had a really much better idea of what you have. And I think if the Habs really want Kotkaniemi to develop and really get the sense that this is still the guy, I think you got to give him that chance to dominate.
Yep.
All right, I'll go to Vancouver so we can talk a bit for Luke here. My big surprise, I put everything just in brackets because like they've been the surprise package of the NHL. They've been very fun to watch so far. But more specifically, I put JT Miller in the goaltending.
Yeah.
Goaltending's exceeded expectations. JT Miller has been fantastic.
Miller, he's been the only consistent point of production on the team all year. Like they've dropped off the past 4 or 5 games. Besser's actually been okay. Pedersen's dropped off. Horvat's dropped off. Miller's been doing what he's been doing all year, and that's incredible. Then you're right about goaltending too. Even with the recent, I guess, month or so, I don't know, Markstrom has had. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but it's just been that's kind of a story in itself.
What happened?
Markstrom announced on Sunday that his father passed away.
Oh, that's terrible.
I didn't know that.
That was and it was from his father passed away from cancer, and that was Vancouver's Hockey Fights Cancer Night. I don't really know if it happened then, but he went home for a week in October. A leave from the team, but yeah, he's been playing incredible. Demko as well. I think 4 wins in 5 games, really good numbers. So yeah, that's both
my only disappointment for them, because I don't think you can really be disappointed even with the slump recently, that little slump. That like you can't be disappointed, because I think they've exceeded everybody's expectations. My only disappointment, I said, like the last week or so. Yeah. Like obviously when you start that well, you want to keep it up for as long as you can.
The teams they've played.
Yeah, like they lost to New Jersey the other day, right? And they haven't been too hot. So yeah, and Chicago hasn't been too hot either. So like those are probably 2 games you would like to win.
Yeah, New Jersey, Chicago,
Winnipeg as well.
St. Louis is fair.
Yeah,
Anaheim.
You see, 4 of those are winnable games, right? Yeah.
So Nashville tonight, Dallas Thursday, Colorado Saturday. Hopefully.
Ottawa's I put just quick, like this all self-react here. Their 5v5 play has been a lot better. Like their shot rates have been much improved from last year. And that's interesting considering they don't have the likes of Duchesne, Stone, Dzingel on the team. So I think that's like been a big pleasant surprise that they've been actually watchable to a degree. But disappointment, I'm not sure if you guys know this. They're historically bad power play right now. So we're like 16, 17 games into the season now. And the Ottawa Senators have 4 power play goals and have allowed 3 against.
Oh, 3 against on the power play.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought you said.
Yeah. So they're plus minus on the power plays.
What's
plus
their
1
percentage? Power play percentage? Do you know?
Oh man, it's 6.7% now. Ooh. Yeah. So, but obviously that's expected. The Senators aren't expected to blow anybody away offensively. This is a rebuilding year, and they just don't have that star talent right now. But I think you'd want at least some sign that there is some life to that system. So. That's my only disappointment from them. Again, nobody's expecting much. I'm not expecting much as a fan. But yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, you are not wrong. 6.6%.
Yeah. I'll go quickly around the other Canadian teams. We all want to react? Okay, sure. We sort of said with Edmonton already, big surprise, James Neal. Right? We talked about that.
For sure.
And their disappointment would be their lack of secondary scoring.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't think anybody's expecting the secondary scoring to absolutely buoy the team, but you'd want some. That would be nice, right?
Yeah, I think.
Last year, Chiasson had 22 goals, I believe.
He was never going to do that again.
No, but 22, it would be nice. He only has 1 goal.
Somewhere
nice
in and around 10 goals this year would be nice.
So
Okay, we'll keep jumping around randomly. Toronto, big surprise is the rejuvenation of William Nylander. Very welcomed for them. I think they needed that. I think William Nylander needed that.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of silenced the critics for now. Except for Mike Babcock.
I don't know if it's. I don't know. Nylander doesn't get the credit he deserves. I had actually Ilya Mikheyev.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Granted, though,
That's
I didn't
good
know
too.
a lot about Ilya Mikheyev coming in. I didn't know he'd produce this much. He has 11 points already, and it's good to have some secondary scoring in your bottom six. I think he's playing with Gauthier on the third line. I could be mistaken. Anyway, Tavares gets hurt. He comes back. Marner gets hurt. I think Marner's out now 4 weeks now. So to have that secondary scoring from Mikheyev, I think is huge, and he's been big for them. And he's been fun to the media and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
the soup stuff.
Definitely Ilya Mikheyev.
And their disappointment has been the goaltending's the obvious one, so I didn't write that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
just
Hutchinson. Henderson's been okay.
Yeah. The 5v5 play of the second line.
Anderson's been really good.
Yeah, he's been but backup Hutchinson.
I said the disappointment is their play of the second line's play at 5v5. So specifically Tavares and Marner, because that was like the team's driving force last year. And Marner, before his injury a couple games ago against Philly, he only has 4 even strength points this season. That is just
awful.
terrible. And Tavares, granted, he's been hurt, but I didn't write down his points at 5v5, but it's not much better. And they're definitely going to need that to improve, because right now they're definitely playing like a one-line team, and you can't have that. Okay, Calgary, surprise is the fact that they're still in it after what many consider a disappointing start from them. Captain Mark Giordano called out the team. And for the disappointment... Wait, wrong audio source. Here we go.
Able to hang on, and Schroeder gets run over by Lucic after taking a jab at.
I like that. We need more of that.
Who made the save, and Lucic comes in and bowls over the 22-year-old.
Oh, we didn't talk about the
Yeah.
Foligno suspension. I just realized.
Yeah,
Let's
well,
talk about that.
we can... It's not that important. But yeah, Lucic, obviously, big disappointment. Obviously, although James Neal is no crazy player and what he's doing right now is unsustainable, you traded a guy that can at least has potential to score for a guy who's become an outright thug. And you're
I
paying
don't
him
know.
$6 million
I don't know
to do
what
it.
the thought process was there. Like, that just doesn't make sense on any level at all.
Yeah, so that. And lastly is the Winnipeg Jets. So their surprise, the goaltending and reasonable defensive play have been passable to this point, considering the long list of injuries / trades / demolition that blue line underwent the offseason. And the fact that their goaltending has helped them stay competitive in a tough Central Division. Well, I think we figured it was going to be a tough Central Division. Hasn't been very tough this year. But Winnipeg is at least holding it together from that respect.
I feel like you could argue Patrick Laine has been a surprise too, just
Yes,
because of the
that is
offseason
good
he's had
too.
as well.
Yep.
All the drama.
Been a much better player.
talking about his frustration with who he's played with Paul Maurice, all that stuff. He has.
I have
over
a
a point per game,
little
so-
trouble labeling that a surprise though, because I think we all knew or hoped to a certain degree that he was going to be better.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a surprise. I would just call last year disappointment. That's so.
Yeah.
And he's just coming back to
I
where
like
he
that.
should be.
I like that. And then their disappointment, and we touched on it again earlier, was the lack of production from top forwards, namely Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler. They haven't been great. And maybe if they were better, then Winnipeg is not missing Dustin Byfuglien, Jacob Trouba, et cetera, so much.
Bet they're
Tyler
missing
Myers.
Tyler Myers
sorry.
right now. Tyler
sorry,
Myers.
Sorry,
has been
forgot to
good.
shout that out for you. But yeah, that's
All right.
basically it.
Tonight, Pat, Canadians, Blue Jackets. Who you got?
It's
Gonna be a tough one.
I don't know. Montreal beats good teams, lose to bad teams. So I don't know.
Do they?
Oh, they beat Boston. They beat St. Louis. They play well. They show up against those teams, but they play really
That was
poorly
like
against
Vancouver a few years ago.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll go Columbus, because I don't know if Weber's playing and he's upped his game a lot. So I'll go Columbus.
Nashville in Vancouver, and I'm just gonna. Well, I don't
Oh
have
wait,
time to
is that the?
throw.
Oh, that. Can you throw up the?
Yeah.
there we
Anyway,
go.
Petrie creeps in, out in front, off a skate, follow up, they score!
what are we watching over there, guys?
Great call.
John Forsland's a good announcer.
Very good. That's his name. I couldn't remember.
Luke, Vancouver winning tonight?
No.
Okay, fair.
Anyways, sorry, that's all I wanted
Fair.
to say.
Okay. Yeah. That pretty much does it for the show.
Right on.
We're doing more audio stuff from now on. I like
Yep,
that.
I
That was
like
good
that
input
as well.
today. All right.
We could have music breaks.
Yeah.
Bring in a song every week.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to Take to Take. We will see you next week. Take care.
There we go. Stream stop.